Nobody takes mishaps and bad luck and turns it into better bits than Rob Benedict. That watch story is my favorite, and I swear to you, he's not exaggerating. If he ever releases the photo, it looks like he's being held hostage. And this was sent to the newspapers and to his family to prove that he's alive, but just for now. We want what we want, or we take him out. Jensen will keep safe, but Rob, he's dead. All right, I mean, you're here. You probably had a question for Rob, but, I can answer it. Ask away.
Now I want to say I love your Kings of Con podcast.
Thank you.
And I want to ask, at the last episode, you were talking about your Wordle WhatsApp group. And I was just curious, who is the longest winning streak of you?
Oh, you talking, the Wordle.
The Wordle.
Wordle, okay. The Wordle, I don't know, we don't really keep track of who's winning, meaning like we all do it every day if we can. I don't think anybody's kept a streak. I don't think anybody has a 300-day running. I think we've all missed at some point. We skipped a day for work or whatever, so I don't know if we haven't tracked that. But I can tell you that for a long time, if you got it in 2, you guys know Wordle? We talk every given. So if you get it in 2, that's pretty amazing, right? If you second guess. And that was sort of whenever somebody would get it in 2, and like, yeah! And everybody would go, screw you. But that was like, that's the ultimate victory, right? Well, last week, Jensen Ackles got it in 1. Yeah, he got it in 1. Which made everybody very mad. He was super proud of himself, bragged about it a lot, and was pretty high on his horse and honestly pretty obnoxious about it. Until yesterday when Ruth got it in 1. So now, they're the only 2 out of our group who've gotten it in 1. So if we're using that measuring stick to see who's doing best at Wordle, right now it's Jensen and Ruth are our top tiers because they both are tied for 1 each at getting it in 1. So there you go. Do you play?
Yes, I do.
It's a fun game, right?
Yeah, it is. Tricky because sometimes I guess the word right, but I have to look at what it means.
Yeah, I have a dumb question here, but is it always in English or is Wordle in different languages?
You can do it in German as well, but I play it in English.
Okay. Is it in Italian?
Yes.
Yeah, like I said, if it was just in English, it would be tough for people. That's cool. It's such a fun, clever game. Really, really good idea. So, Dave Wordle or whoever came up with it, kudos. Thank you for your question. Good luck with your Wordle. Have you played today?
Yes, I did already.
Don't say it. Don't ruin it for everybody. All right, you.
Hi. I'm going back in time and I want to...
Oh, congratulations. That's cool. How are you doing that?
No, it's my secret.
Oh wow, man, you could really monetize that and make a lot of money.
Yeah, but I won't.
That's not smart, but all right. I'm telling you, science would smile upon you. All right, what's up?
Okay, I want to ask you a question about Band of Brothers.
Okay.
Because Battle of the Bulge episode is one of my favorite episodes of all time. So I was wondering whether you have memories and what was it like to film that episode?
Oh man, yeah. So Band of Brothers was an amazing experience across the board. I'm still really good friends with the majority of the other actors. We have a barbecue every year at Bull's house. We missed during COVID, but other than COVID, we've had it every year around the time when we started boot camp in April. And we have a barbecue, we get together. So in terms of the actual, people know what Band of Brothers is. It's a World War II miniseries that I did many years ago. And it is a really cool series, really well done. If you are interested in history or war or any of those things, it's a really honest retelling of true stories of World War II. The Battle of the Bulge sequence was super cool. For starters, the majority of that was inside, which is, you wouldn't think. They took an airplane hangar and they filled it full of dirt, 6 feet of dirt, and then dug foxholes in there, and the trees went up into as high as they could in the airplane hangar, and they were That's where they could do the explosions and control everything. We still did some, when you see tanks rolling and stuff, that's outside. We did some outside stuff too. But it was largely inside. All the dialogue and all that stuff, and the snow blowing and all that was all done inside, which even when I see it now, it's very impressive. It's really, really cool. Here's a piece of trivia. It's episode 6, and it's the scene where we're driving into Battle of the Bulge. We're all the back of the Deuce and a Half, headed to Battle of the Bulge, right? And I think it's episode 6, or maybe it's 5. And it's the scene where we're all sitting around, and I say, "Did you bring extra socks, feet, hands, next ball?" You know the scene I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Extra socks. You gotta bring your socks. I wrote that scene. Yep, I wrote one scene at Band of Brothers. I wrote that scene, and it was a scene, very interesting scenario how that came about. Tom Hanks was directing an episode, and he called me and 2 other actors up to him when we're out in the field, and he said, "I'm doing a scene the next couple of days. It's not in the script yet. It needs these characters in it," and he had it written down on a buck slip. "Needs these characters in it. Why don't you guys take a crack at it and see if you can put it together?" I'm like, "Okay." And the other 2 guys are like, when we left, they're like, "I don't write, really." And I go, "Well, I do, so I'll do it." And I went home and spent the next 48 hours like stressing and writing, because I was super nervous because I got to turn this into Tom Hanks. So I wrote this scene and turned it into him, and I turned it into him through his assistant, and he said, "It's great. Well, we'll do it. Tell the other guys." I'm like, "Well, I think you should probably put them out as page changes, because otherwise it'll seem unofficial if I tell them." He's like, "You're right." So he rewrote. They typed them officially and put them out as official pages for Band of Brothers, and he took out 1 or 2 lines, but otherwise that's the scene we shot. So that's that. And then another trivia thing. That scene it's in episode 6, the one that focuses on the medic, on Doc Rowe.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a scene where he walks past, he's just going somewhere, and behind him, we're in mass, we're all kneeling down in the snow, and the priest is burning a mass, and then Muck stands up and says, "Now if we die in a state of grace." He says something like that, and then, Doc goes on. That was not in the script either. We were having dinner with Babe Heffron, the real Babe Heffron, and Bill Garnier, the real guys. The real soldiers were out in London visiting us, and he told that story about Muck insisting that they do a mass and kneel down in the snow and do this mass, and that's what Muck said afterwards. And so the director, I told that story to the director's like, "Oh, we'll just put that in." So that's not in the script anywhere. We just staged it with the director helped stage it so that we could do something that really happened as part of the show. And that show had a lot of that in it. Like there would be moments where me sitting in the foxhole talking about swimming the Niagara River is not in the script. That was a letter written to me from Muck's sister when I was getting information for her. She wrote this story to me. She's like, "This is what happened." And she sent me this thing, and I showed it to the director, David Frankel, and he's like, "We'll just do that. You just tell that story. We'll just put you in a foxhole, and you tell the story as written." And so that's just me retelling what was written as a letter to me. And it's all true. Faye, I refer to this woman, Faye Tanner, really was Skip Muck's girlfriend at the time. And in fact, saw the series when it came out, and she contacted the family and sent them Skip's original jump wings, because he had mailed it. All his medals were blown up with him, but he had mailed his jump wings home to her when he got them, and then she sent them back to his family once the series came out. And there's a really cool piece of Hollywood trivia. So, Skip Muck swam across the Niagara River before he shipped out. The Niagara River is in upstate New York, borders New York and Canada, and it's a very strong current. It leads to Niagara Falls. So it's dangerous because if you swim across it and you don't make it, you go, because you get too tired, you go over the falls and you die. So, but he wanted to prove his strength and show off to his girlfriend and swim across the Niagara River. So this is all true. So he was going to swim across the Niagara River. His buddies were worried about it. They said, that's dumb. At the very least, let's have one guy in a rowboat next to you, so if you get too tired, you can grab a boat and you won't die. It won't make it safe for you. So fine. So they put, one of his friends got in a boat and paddled alongside him. And the guy who got in the boat, his name was Fritz Nyland. Probably not a name you've heard of. Fritz Nyland, who ended up serving in the war. And Fritz Nyland served in the war, and a bunch of his brothers served in the war too. And they all died, except for Fritz. And then they made a movie about it and changed it to Ryan instead of Nyland. And the movie was Saving Private Ryan.
Wow.
So that in this one moment in upstate New York in 1941 or 43, two men who would later be immortalized in Spielberg movies were together in a river just showing off like kids before going off and doing one of the most difficult and greatest things ever done by the free world. And both from Tonawanda, New York, just tiny little town. And they later put a monument on that part of the river where they shipped off. They put a monument to those two men, and then sort of it's a memorial to all veterans, but they specifically call out those two guys. Because what were the odds that you would end up with the Ryan who lived and Skip Muck being best friends? And Band of Brothers was originally 13 episodes. But they panicked. They thought they were going to lose money. They got nervous, so they didn't shoot 3 of them. In one of the episodes, Skip and Fritz ran into each other in a bar in Paris. But none of that got shot. But I know. I mean, in hindsight, they would have done it because it ended up being the most successful miniseries of all time. But at the time, miniseries didn't exist. You don't think about that now because there's limited series all the time. But when Band of Brothers came out, they weren't doing that. It was not a thing anybody was doing. So it was a big roll of the dice for HBO. A lot of money being spent. Turned out to be a good investment. But I love that piece of trivia that those two guys did that thing, and then later Hollywood picked up their stories and immortalized them. And that's just a really cool, they lost a lot, but at least we remember them now. And they represent so many people that we lost. So it's really cool that, I admire that Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg have put their energy to keeping those stories alive. There's Private Ryan, Band of Brothers, The Pacific. Now they're doing Masters of the Air, which is about the Air Force at the time. So they keep reminding us that the little old men who walk down the street in Army gear and Veterans Day and Memorial Day aren't just cute little old men. They were once 17-year-old boys with their lives in front of them and a bunch of friends, and they all went over to Europe or came over to Europe or came to a different country from Europe and put their lives on the line and lost their friends and changed their lives for the worse so that we could live for the better. It's really an inspiring generation of people. So, thank you for your question, because I love telling those stories. Appreciate it.
Thank you for the answer.
You're welcome.